Hey, I'm JD with another happy gardening video from Dothan Nurseries, and today we're going to talk about citrus, and specifically citrus in southeast Alabama, the Dothan, Alabama area, little of the panhandle of Florida, that kind of thing. There are really only two kinds of citrus that we have pretty good success with living through the cold in southeast Alabama, and that is the satsuma right here. This is the Arctic frost satsuma. The satsuma you could kind of compare to a tangerine. And then this guy right here is the kumquat. They come in a round, sweet kumquat and a long, sour kumquat. So these are the two right here we would recommend planting in the ground around here. Now, we would not recommend planting them in the ground in October, November, December as we're getting into winter when they're young, because a young tree has a less chance of surviving cold weather. So in a perfect world, you're going to get these and plant them in a pot October, November, December. Bring them in when we get probably below 25 degrees, and then plant them in the ground in March or April, that kind of thing. So get that satsuma and kumquat planted in the ground sometime in March and April, and they'll grow bigger and grow stronger and be able to take the cold weather when it comes the next winter. Other types of citrus we carry are lemons and limes. That's what these guys are right here. The Meyer lemon's probably the most popular, makes a lot of lemons. The lime, we'll have key lime, Persian lime, but the difference with the limes and the lemons, grapefruits, navel oranges, they're not nearly as cold hardy as my satsuma and my kumquat. So we're going to recommend planting those in a pot. When you plant them in a pot, you can move them inside when we get really cold. So with these guys, I'm going to say 26, 25 degrees or lower, we're going to want to bring those guys inside and protect them from the cold. There are exceptions. I know everybody says they've seen a lemon tree, they've seen a grapefruit, they've seen an orange in our area that is doing great, and there are exceptions, but in general, they're not going to take the cold weather. But if we ever do have cold weather, what do? These guys, it's really simple. The lemon and lime, you're going to have them in a pot, you're going to put them in the garage for the night. Kumquat and the satsuma are going to be out in your yard. Can't really dig them up. What do? You can put a sheet over them. A bed sheet is fine. Just make sure it breathes. You don't want to put plastic or anything like that on them. And the other thing, you can put Christmas lights on these, but just remember, with today's technology, we don't want the LED lights because they don't really make any warmth. We want the old-fashioned Christmas bulbs that will really keep the plant warm. And all the citrus, I'm talking about all the citrus now, are all going to bloom in the spring and summer. You're going to get your fruit on out in the fall. October, November is when you start getting fruit off these kind of trees. And back to the lemons and limes too, just because they're in a pot, don't think they're not going to make a lot of fruit. The lemon especially will make a lot of fruit in a pot. You can get 50 or 100 lemons off one plant just in a small pot. And the next thing we're going to talk about with these citrus are the grafts. That is where they get a citrus that has really good roots, and then they get the citrus you want, the satsuma, the kumquat, the lemon, the lime, and for lack of a better phrase, they glue them together, they graft them together. And so then you have really hardy roots, and then you have a really nice plant there on top of it. What'll happen sometimes is if it gets really cold and your plant is not protected well, or you have the wrong kind of citrus out there, the top of your plant, the part you want, dies, and then the graft stays alive. And then that next spring and summer, the plant comes back out from the graft. It looks pretty, but you have these really long thorns, and then you have this really hard fruit that's not really edible. It's kind of sour and doesn't taste really good. So if that ever happens, if you're like, I've had this plant for 3 years and it keeps coming back green and pretty, but I don't ever get the good fruit, you need to check and see if it died back and came back from the graft. And if you ever have questions, get with us and we can help you with that. I get this question a lot. All the citrus are a host plant for the swallowtail butterfly. They lay their little tiny eggs on it, and they make a caterpillar, which is a really gnarly caterpillar. It looks like a little baby snake, and I have people call all the time saying they have these really mean looking caterpillars eating the leaves of their citrus plant. Number one, remember this, it's not going to kill your plant. All they do is they'll eat the leaf off and the leaf will come right back. If you want to get rid of the swallowtail butterflies, that's fine, but don't just look at a really ugly caterpillar one day and think, hey, I want to kill that, because it's going to become a pretty swallowtail butterfly. So always remember that. The pests these things get, they're a little bad sometimes to get white flies. White flies will lay their eggs on here. It leaves a little sticky residue, and then that sticky residue attracts fungus, a sooty mold. It'll be a black, you can almost wipe it off, a black mold on the leaves. So to stop that, we like to use triple action. It's basically neem oil, and that it's an oil, and those white flies, if you ever hit the leaves and you see flies, little tiny white flies buzzing around, you need to spray it with triple action or with neem oil, some type of oil, and those bugs will get trapped in that oil and die. So, and then the last thing, as with all our trees and shrubs, we love this right here. This is our year release fertilizer. Put it on one time, any time of year, and you are good to go, and you don't have to think about fertilizing anymore. I'm JD with Dothan Nurseries, and this has been Happy Gardening. See you again soon.